Tier list. Over the last 8 videos and 2 months, I have reviewed all 5 currently released and localized arcs of Hirohiko Araki's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, an anthology of stories following primarily the bloodlines of the JOESTARs, and in the case of the most recent arc, Dio Brando. However, seeing as this will be my last review I make on JoJo until part 6 gets translated, I will, right here and now, present you all with my tier list for my favorite JoJo's and my favorite JoJo OPs. Alright, so right off the bat, I'm gonna need to destroy everything from D tier and below. Everything on this list I at the very least enjoyed, particularly with the music. I even had all of these tracks playing while I worked on this video, and yes, I know all of the lyrics. C tier, Jonathan Joestar. So, working our way up, starting with the JoJo that initiated this whole journey, we have the OG himself, Jonathan Joestar. As the original JoJo, he sort of sets the standard, and to be frank, had you approached me before I began this review and told me I would end up liking Jonathan, I never would have believed you. While not being very interesting in terms of personality, I found his virtuous death both tragic and shocking, made all the more emotional in later installments, particularly in their OPs, but I'll get to that later. Next up, TRAITOR'S Requiem. It's funny how the first JoJo and the last song from part 5 are opening up this list. TRAITOR'S Requiem is a somewhat understated song and one that I truthfully almost forgot to include on this list. Maybe I'd rank it higher if it had more time to grow on me, however, as the second OP from Golden Wind, it'll have to stand alongside Jonathan as the bar set for this series. Chase. Coming in as a C tier entrant is Chase from Diamond is Unbreakable. As the middle child of the 3 Diamond is Unbreakable OPs, it didn't really have much narratively to play with from a visual perspective, and musically I think this is probably one of the songs I listen to the least. With that said, I still know all of the lyrics and I do love it. B tier, Giorno Giovanna. And with that, we arrive at the tier labeled B, and I get a sinking feeling people are going to be really upset that I've decided to place Giorno here. As you've seen in this and the last review covering the events of part 5, I am a massive fan of what it managed to achieve in captivating me, but also in demonstrating how much better Araki managed to get as a writer during his time working on JoJo. With all of that said, due to the ensemble nature of this story and the lack of screen time Giorno ultimately received, I didn't really have that much of a chance to form much of a bond with him as a character. There are plenty of instances throughout and during this story where I really enjoyed him as a character, however, it wasn't enough to give him an edge over the other JoJos on this tier list for me. Fighting Gold. On the other hand, I have no idea as to whether or not placing Fighting Gold on the B tier is a controversial take or not. Seeing this song here shouldn't be an indication of anything other than the quality and high standard all of the other tracks have set. But yeah, I really like this song, just not as much as I've come to expect from JoJo. It could have something to do with the chorus, but who knows. Bloody Stream. Like I said, I had no idea if the previous one was a controversial take. I do, however, know for a fact that this one will be controversial. Bloody Stream. I adore the song and I love how cool and smooth the lead singer's vocals are. I have no idea if this song's proximity to other tracks in the series played a role or whether or not its much more subdued arrangement when compared with the others played into its position here. I just never really connected with the song in the same intense way I did with all of the others that came after on this list. As B tier goes, I'd say this is the strongest contender for A tier, but not quite. I had to draw the line somewhere in the sand, and Bloody Stream just didn't make the cut for me personally. A tier. Crazy, Noisy, Bizarre Town. I'm a massive fan of tracks that capture the essence and tone of their respective stories, and if I'm being perfectly honest, Crazy, Noisy, Bizarre Town sets the standard in that department. Catchy, upbeat, with fittingly bizarre visuals featured over the quaint little town the story is based within. This is perhaps more than any other an earworm I'll never shake, and you know what? I'm not even mad. JOSUKE HIGASHIKATA. Something I've noticed in my reading through of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is that the main characters seem to take more and more of a backseat role from Joseph onwards, and while Josuke didn't get the Giorno treatment in that he had to totally share with all of the other side characters equally, I felt like I could have done with more screen time with Josuke. There really aren't too many scenes in that story where the audience gets to spend some one-on-one time with Josuke, and I think that probably played a role into my bonding with the character. I feel like Josuke deserves to be on the S tier, but for some reason I felt like after the arc finished there was still so much I wanted to know and learn about Josuke. I wanted more, which I suppose is a good thing if not for the fact that I expected more. Regardless, from what I did see, I saw a subtly emotional, lighthearted and relaxed JoJo that I thoroughly enjoyed from start to finish, and for a long time was in the running for my all-time favorite JoJo. KUJO JOTARO. Unlike Josuke, whom I liked from the outset, Jotaro was very much a character that took time to grow on me. Initially, my exposure to him via the anime many years ago created a feeling of boredom surrounding the character. However, through the manga, I sincerely thought a lot more subtle emotional cues shined through. That, coupled with some wonderfully timed straight-faced gags and some truly badass scenes with him, Jotaro climbs out of the expectations I had and into the extremely entertaining A tier. Great Days. Of all the tracks on this list, this is the one that surprised me the most by how much I love it. Capping off the last spot on A tier is Diamond is Unbreakable's OP, Great Days. This track managed to reach this high spot despite me only knowing about it for the last few weeks, which, I mean, speaks volumes about how much I like and listen to this song. It's not as punchy as some of the other tracks in S tier, but as far as the softer JoJo tracks go, this one is my absolute favorite. Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town is awesome, but I'd sincerely think I enjoyed this one just that little bit more. And now the time you've all been waiting for. Time for the S tier. First up, Sonochi no Kyoku. Kicking things off and setting the standard from this point on is the last OP of Part 3, Sonochi no Kyoku. Unlike many of the other OPs, this one in particular feels as though it's mirroring the story. Starting ominously, it builds to an impactful moment following the visuals of the Stardust Crusaders making their way to Dio. And man, when they do eventually get to Dio, this OP features a revised Dio edit mirroring the story perfectly and giving further context to the original version. It's catchy, it's informed by the story, and while I was reading along, this track really got me hyped. Stand Proud. While I know a lot of people prefer Sonochi no Kyoku over Stand Proud, this track marked the instance that this series really and truly hooked me on a narrative level. Before hearing this track, I knew I loved the music and I knew I could really get into certain characters, but what this OP did for me was bring to the forefront of my mind that this story was more than just a third largely disconnected plot, but something that we've been building towards for years. With Jonathan's closing eyes, Joseph as a young man turning around, and Jotaro standing and facing forward, in that split second of the OP, it reminded me that this arc will be the culmination of everything that came before it, and in a weird way was sort of nostalgic to me. And on top of that, this track also gave me a new appreciation for Jonathan Joestar, and slaps so damn hard, which never hurts. Joseph Joestar. Finally, here he is, my favorite JoJo, Joseph Joestar. Standing proud and S tier, this character captures pretty much everything I like in a character. He's active, not too serious, intelligent, and with a hidden kindness that he doesn't like to flaunt all that often. Within my infamous watch through all those years ago that ended with me not liking the series at all, there were two things that I liked, and one of them was Joseph Joestar. In addition to that, I think my love for him is aided by way of him being present and taking part in 3 separate arcs of JoJo, but for me, nothing will beat Battle Tendency Joseph. He's snarky, he's brilliant, and he's hot as And now it's time to share with you all my favorite OP from JoJo. Sonochi no Sadame. This song is based. Long before I ever gave this series another shot, back in the days I was convinced I didn't like JoJo, I still had Sonochi no Sadame unabashedly blasting in the speakers of my car, with the windows open screaming the lyrics. And I'm not just talking about the OP, I'm talking about the full version too, wherein the singer, with every passing chorus, bellows a more emphatic and long JoJo than the last, with the final JoJo exclamation lasting 8 seconds. That's awesome, and for me, it's the series' best track by far. And that's my tier list. I have a list of my favorite JoJo parts too, but I'll be posting them to my Twitter instead. If you want to see that list, check me out at Totally Not Mark.